Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom.
which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Of course, we are here tonight to keep our new moon. And what a new moon is a new month. This is what Yahweh has given us to keep our time. I know we have gotten accustomed to looking at our phones to try to figure out what day it is. But when we go back to Yahweh's system, we will be looking in the sky to see what day it is, because that moon tells us everything we need to know about where we are within our month cycle. We're going to go over just a few of the things that I have down here, because if we go over everything, we ain't leaving here tonight. I end up having a IUIC guy show up at my doorstep, and it got rather interesting. I mean, it got aggressive really quick, because I said, look, man, I don't have time, you know what I'm saying? So let's get right into the good part. What we're going to do is I am putting together a pamphlet that I will have on the internet, that I want you guys to have in your wallet, in your purse. So when you run into one of these purple hellions, you have everything that you need to be able to deal with the things that is going to come up. Don't get involved in the little the beginning parts of the discussion that appear to be peaceful, where they start asking you, do you know what knowledge is, or do you know what wisdom is? Skip all of that. Tell them to miss you with that. You ain't got time for that. Let's get to the part where we're going to discuss how we're going to deal with doctrine. And it's one of those things where you have to first of all understand your purpose in having the discussion. Their purpose in the discussion is to try to evangelize you. You need to know that what they have is a deep brainwashing. It's like the Jehovah's Witness, that when you answer a question, they're just going to go somewhere else. All right. But what I am putting together, and I didn't finish it, but we wouldn't be able to get through it all tonight anyway. But I'm going to pass this out to each and every last person when I finish it. And we're going to aggressively go over it. And when I say aggressively, I might see you walking down the hall and I'm going to address something and I want you to answer it. Because you need to get ready, because them purple people going to come in your face and you need to be ready for it. So the title of this pamphlet is called Purple Power. Let's start. Because I want you to be ready. When the purple onion come up to you, you don't cry. You make the purple onion cry. All right. Now, our first topic is going to be, and the way kids can see what I have down here, but rather than print it out for all of you guys, because I know that I'm not finished with it, I rather wait and give you guys like a full version, because the first thing they're going to come up to you about is prophesying with your head covered. So let's go to Numbers chapter 12, and they're going to tell you, try to explain to you what prophesying is. And what you have to do is, no matter what somebody else says, don't let them, and this is, our people have fallen victim to this in Christianity, and let's not get it twisted. I know these guys, they have the title of Hebrew Israelites, but these guys are Christians. They use the term Jesus, Lord, all of those things, and will argue to you about why they could use the name Jesus. But they themselves will change their name to Hebrew names while still calling the Messiah this slave name of Jesus. And that really pisses them off when you say it's a slave name. So make sure you say that. Okay. All right. So first of all, prophesying with your head covered. Prophesying, if we get it, because of course, they're going to go into Corinthians and says that a man should not pray or prophesy with his head covered. So then this Hebrew word is propheteo, and I have it in bold: to foretell events, divine, speak under inspiration, exercise prophetic office. So to prophesy, according to even the Greek definition, means to foretell events, because of that is of course where they're going to go. They're going to go to Corinthians and read, you should not pray or prophesy with your head covered. And you are going to have to make the point that you are not prophesying by reading. Even if you're reading in the prophets, they prophesied it, you didn't. Numbers chapter 12, and let's read verses 5 and 6.
And Yahweh came down in a pillar of the cloud, and stood in the door of the tabernacle, and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. And he said, hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, Yahweh, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream.
So when this person tells you that they are prophesying because they're reading the book, you have to ask them, so are you asleep right now? Did you receive a vision? Were those words given to you? No, they were not given to you. You read them. They were somebody else's words. You can't steal another man's work and call that work yours. Jeremiah and those other prophets, you realize that most of them prophets got thrown in jail? We ain't did one day in jail, but now we going to be prophets because we reading his words? Are you willing to go to jail for him too? See, I don't see nobody standing at DeKalb County knocking on them bars saying, let me in, because I'm a prophet. And I must suffer like the prophet suffered. I don't see that happening. So make sure you get, now this is Yahweh's definition. They're going to still tell you, they're going to try to go somewhere else to try and explain what a prophet is. The reason I'm giving you this, I don't want you to have, what they're going to try to do is run you around the book. Remember when I was talking about tennis and how you win a tennis match? You can tell the person who running from one end to the other end, they going to lose. Because sooner or later, they are going to get tired. Because they running from one end of the court to the other end of the court. You are not going to be able to keep that up. And that is their objective, to run you all around the book. Don't run around the book. All of this is going to be given to you, printed out, and only thing I got on here, Numbers 12, 5, and 6. I don't want you running around the book. You're going to have everything. This right here, and I ain't done, it's 3 pages. But all of the scripture is here. So you can go one by one and tear up you some purple hide. Next thing, let's go to Jeremiah 14. And we're going to go Jeremiah 14 and verses 14 and 15.
Verse 14. Then Yahweh said unto me, the prophets prophesy lies in my name. I sent them not, neither have I commanded them, neither spake unto them.
Right, but these people believe that anybody who starts to read and now they start to understand some of the word, now they have become a prophet. Yahweh says something altogether different. Yahweh said something different in Numbers 12, and Yahweh says something different here in Jeremiah 14. But this is where you have to separate the difference between what you read out of the book and what comes out of somebody's mouth. Because they're still going to say something else, regardless as to what the book says. Go ahead.
They prophesy unto you a false vision and divination, and a thing of naught, and the deceit of their heart. Therefore thus says Yahweh concerning the prophets that prophesy in my name, and I sent them not, yet they say, sword and famine shall not be in this land. By sword and famine shall those prophets be consumed.
So then when we look at this, we see that Yahweh does not agree with their definition of what a prophet is. So now let's go to Numbers chapter 15. Numbers chapter 15, and we're going to start that at verse 38.
Numbers chapter 15 and verse 38. Speak unto the children of Israel, and bid them that they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations.
Now, this is probably going to be the start of the conversation, because they walk up with their fringes on, and they want to ask you, why don't you wear your fringes every day? I mean, they got fringes for everything. I've never seen a little boy with a fringe belt. I've never seen that a little 5-year-old has got to be covered with the law at all times. He on the playground. He need the law to come down the slide. He on the swing. The little boy need the law if he's on the swing, or something might happen because he ain't got the law with him on the swing. That is a child. But this is the doctrine, and how aggressively this doctrine is pushed. And I want to bring something to your attention. This is law. Understand something, and how Yeshua had great indignation against the Pharisees because they pushed law. And I have this in here, that I am not against fringes. I wear fringes. I don't think I just should have them on while I'm in the shower. I don't think I should swim with the fringes hanging from my shorts, and now fish are now nipping at me because they think I am food. Go ahead, bro.
And that they put upon the fringe of the borders a ribbon of blue. And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that you may look upon it and remember all the commandments of Yahweh.
Stop. The purpose of the fringe is for you to remember the law. This is something that people will not tell you. They like to get to the point. And on most of the things that people bring to you, if you just back up a couple of lines before where they're reading, it is going to give you a lot more information. But we're having this conversation in you're in your comfort zone. This is going to be totally different when you got one of them purple dudes in front of your face yelling. That's why we going over it aggressive. And some of y'all gonna think I'm wrong when I just jump in your face and start saying something to you. Why suck all in my face? Because that's what that purple onion gonna do. My kids running all around the house looking out the window. I done set chairs out in the front. Y'all, let's go at it, man. But I knew it was gonna happen sooner or later. I knew it was gonna happen. Go ahead, brother. Where you at?
And do them, and that you seek not after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you used to go a-whoring, that you may remember and do all my commandments, and be holy unto your Elohim.
Now, this is what the fringe, the purpose of it is. Now, their argument, what this group will not do is read why this law was given. This was not an original law given by Yahweh. This law was given because of disobedience to the Sabbath, and if we back up a few verses, we are going to read that. Go to Numbers 15 and verse 32.
And while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man that gathered sticks upon the Sabbath day. And they that found him gathering sticks brought him unto Moshe and Aaron and unto all the congregation. And they put him in ward, because it was not declared what should be done to him. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, the man shall surely be put to death.
Right. He is put to death because he was gathering sticks. The purpose of the gathering sticks was, of course, to make fuel so that he can work. Go ahead.
All the congregation shall stone him with stones without the camp. And all the congregation brought him without the camp and stoned him with stones, and he died.
Now that was verse 36. That's where that ended. Then where the fringe is given is verse 38. See, you need to know how that came about. See, they want to jump right to the part of the fringe. Hold on. That was not the original part of the law. Understand, there was a part when they wouldn't, they kept going out to go and get the manna on the Sabbath. Eventually, he said, Don't go out your house on the Sabbath. That was not his original plan, for you not to come out the house on the Sabbath. What was the problem? They couldn't stop picking the manna. So now, all of a sudden, we forget the purpose of something and when it was given. The purpose is for you to remember the commandment. What they have done is made the fringe the commandment, instead of making it a reminder to keep the commandment. It is not the commandment. The commandment, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. That is what they broke. That is why they made them wear the fringe. See, so you need to know the difference as to why you wear your fringe. I don't wear my fringe because it says you must wear a fringe. It says for you to remember to keep his commandments. And if you need to have fringes on at all times, that's what you got to do. But putting that on everybody to say that they need to wear fringes, understand when this was given. And this was a very disobedient people. And to make sure of that, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 10.
You know, while we go in there, we also know that for them it's respect the persons, because they want
Of course it is.
Spot other Hebrews in a crowd.
Exactly. They want to be able to spot the Hebrews, and that way they'll know who they can approach unto. Okay? And you must wear it the way they wear it. See, they wear it all the way around the bottom of the garment, which we're going to get into. Deuteronomy chapter 10 and verse 12.
And now, Israel, what does Yahweh your Elohim require of you, but to fear Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul.
Now, if you listen closely, you're going to hear them pushing and saying, this is what the words say. It says do this, and at points they want to take it literal. At point they want to take it like it's not literal. But keep going, because we're going to get to something here. Go ahead.
To keep the commandments of Yahweh and his statutes, which I command you this day for your good.
Right. So, and walking in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and soul, and to keep the commandments. Go ahead.
Behold, the heaven and the heaven of heavens is Yahweh your Elohim's, the earth also, with all that therein is. Only Yahweh had a delight in your fathers to love them, and he chose their seed after them, even you above all people, as it is this day. Circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart, and be no more stiff-necked.
Now, circumcise the foreskin of your heart, that's not something you can physically do. That is a spiritual thing. It is not possible. There is no foreskin on your heart, physically. This is about walking in the law and having it in your heart. And putting something on your shirt ain't going to put it in your heart. You got to decide whether or not it's going to go in your heart. I can put all kind of stuff on my shirt. That don't mean it's in my heart. And if it's in your heart, you're already on another level. This doesn't make anybody who wears it wrong, but to say that everybody has to have it on their shirt to put it in their heart, now you're incorrect. Understand something. Everybody wasn't gathering sticks on their Sabbath day. Just that man. But then everybody got the punishment. Come on, man. Y'all been, y'all grew up. Your mama in the house tore up when she get home. Ain't nobody answering the right question. Everybody getting a whooping. Then the snitching started. Well, it was him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you know what? You was in here when he did it. Why you ain't stopping? So now I'm going to give you another whooping. Everybody wasn't gathering sticks. One person was gathering sticks. And Yahweh gave that ordination broadly. For one dude. Go ahead.
Isn't it written that a
but one inwardly. And this is what, but you know what? What's interesting is he's already talking about what you just mentioned is in the New Testament. I think that's like chapter 2 of Romans. Now, he's already saying this in Deuteronomy 10. In the Old Testament, he's saying having a circumcised heart. He's already dealing with the spirit of the law in the Old Testament. So how much more by the time we get to Romans and start dealing with those things? Now, let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 12. See, if the law is written in your heart, I don't need a fringe to tell me that I shouldn't kill my brother. But if you need a fringe to tell you, to remember, for you to remember that you should not kill your brother, put a fringe everywhere. Because at the end of the day, then you won't go to jail for murder. And you won't be judged according to Yahweh. Yahweh's word. I think the fringes are a beautiful thing. I just saw Sister Johanna's fringes, and I said, those look absolutely nice. Where'd you get those? And she said, Brother Absalom got them off the internet somewhere. I thought it looked really nice. But they got them on, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. We finna read something. Deuteronomy 22 and verse 12.
You shall make you fringes upon the 4 quarters of your vesture, wherewith you covereth yourself.
Now, a lot of times when you're reading something, you have to compare the places as to where it is written. So now this is in the Old Testament, right? So a lot of times people will jump back and forth from the Old Testament to the New Testament, but you know, the New Testament is written in Greek. Old Testament is written in Hebrew. You're going to have different definitions of words depending on what was originally there. So I like to compare it within the same time frame of it being written. So Deuteronomy 22, you shall make you fringes upon the 4 quarters of your vesture wherewith you cover yourself. Read the definition of quarters.
H3671 kanaf from H3670, an edge or extremity, specifically of a bird or army, a wing, of a garment or bed clothing, a flap of the earth, a quarter.
So then you got a wing or a flap, but you're still dealing with the edge or extremity. Now let's go to Exodus chapter 28.
Exodus chapter 28 and verse 33. And beneath upon the hem of it you shall make pomegranates of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, round about the hem thereof, and bells of gold between them round about.
This is the high priest garment, and what was supposed to be on the hem of it. Go ahead.
Verse 34. A golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate, upon the hem of the robe round about. And it shall be upon Aaron to minister, and his sound shall be heard when he goes in unto the holy place before Yahweh, and when he comes out, that he die not.
Now, what we have to pay attention to, what it says, you shall make you fringes upon the 4 quarters of your vesture. If you have a slit in a shirt on each side, it is going to be divided in 4s. 2 on the left side, 2 on the right side. Very simple. When you start talking about what was given to the high priest, it did not specify or say quarters. It says all around the hem. And the way these brothers wear their fringes is all around the hem. That means they're wearing their fringes like the high priest wore the pomegranate and the bell. Read the definition for hem.
From H7757, shul, from an unused root meaning to hang down, a skirt, by implication, a bottom edge.
Now, bottom edge, still the same general location. Go ahead.
Hem, skirt, train.
So it hangs down, but you notice these are both coming from the Old Testament. One is in Exodus, one is in Deuteronomy. If they were talking about the same thing, why didn't they use the same word? So, you know, that's one of the things that we're going to have to look at. Now let's go to Luke chapter 8. Now, if you examine the Hebrew word given in the law when fringes are mentioned, the word used when the hem is mentioned for the high priest, you find different words. The high priest's garment was to have a pomegranate and bells all around the hem, not 4 quarters. So the incorrect way that they wear their fringes is all around the hem instead of on the flap or 4 quarters. So now let's go to Luke chapter 8 and let's see where they get this from. And what I'm putting here, and it says fringe garment before that, and then under this it says their healing argument. You're going to know the parts where I'm talking about their doctrine because I put it in purple and I put a line under. Well, I need you to be able to pick it out fast. You understand what I'm saying to you? Because see, you're gonna have a dude in front of your face. See, so I need you to be able to pick this up. You know, hey, you might not have but 15 minutes on break. You know what I'm saying? Don't waste all 15 with this dude, man. All right, you still got a sandwich you got to eat. You got to get back in here. All right? So you need to be able to cut fast and go. Because they'll talk to you all day. Okay? Go ahead, bro.
Luke chapter 8 and verse 43. And a woman having an issue of blood 12 years, which had spent all her living upon physicians, neither could be healed of any, came behind him, and touched the border of his garment, and immediately her issue of blood stanched.
So, when they said the border of the garment, and if you look it up in the New Testament, you're going to run into a definition of fringes. Of course, they're going to have a Greek word that's there, not any of the Hebrew words that was in either one of these, but they know that the children of Israel would wear fringes. So now you have this thing where they say, okay, this is where the woman where Christ wore fringes. And they push this, which is really, believe it or not, this is your catch-22, because this is where you see their hypocrisy. They say Christ wore fringes. So this is where we must do, because he was our example. I was like, absolutely wonderful. I'm so glad you said it. Now I'm finna tie you up with that. So he said that was his whole thing, that Christ wore it. Here's where the argument gets absolutely twisted. They believe that the fringe healed the woman instead of him. See, you got to be able to pick out twisted stuff. They think the fringe healed the woman. You think because he wore the fringe, she touched the fringe, that you don't think the healing came from him? So you got to be able to pick out some twisted things here. I'm gonna go. Let's go to Mark chapter 16. And one of the things you have to do when you're dealing with these people is stop letting them dictate the conversation. They're gonna try to talk for too long. You got to interrupt that. And like I said, all of this is going to be, printed out. It's going to be emailed. It's going to be put on the website. So when you get ready to go, you have one of them, you just go to the UCI.org, look up Purple Power. And you're going to have access to all of this. And you can take care of that business. But I want you to have some stuff in your pocket just in case you can't get to the internet now. See? There's some places where you are, you may not have internet service. Now you got to deal with all this purple and these fringes everywhere. See? You need to download it, and it'll be on your phone. And you can keep it in there. Mark 16 and verse 16. Because these people don't believe in baptism. I want you to think about, They are spread all over the world, but not one of them have been cleansed. Not one of them have been born again. They are spiritual fetuses. They ain't even been born. You talking to a fetus. You might as well be getting one of them sonograms. Ain't that what they get when they look at the babies? That's what you're looking at. Because they ain't never been born yet. And they preach against baptism. Mark 16 and verse 16.
He that believes and is baptized shall be saved. But he that believes not shall be damned.
Now, even though the word says one thing, what they have to do is to convince you, instead of going against the word right away, what they're going to do is come against that by saying, they're going to go to another place where it says he is, where baptism doesn't save us to the saving of the flesh, but it's through the word. And we understand that reading of the word does some things, but remember where the brothers, the whole argument for the fringe is that they said the woman touched it and Yahshua is our example, right? Go to John chapter 4 and verse 2. Actually, start that at verse 1, because this is their absolute worst part of hypocrisy that they teach. And they teach a lot of hypocrisy. But this one right here is pretty horrible, because they just stop in the middle of a line. John chapter 4 and start at verse 1.
When therefore the Adonai knew how the Pharisees had heard that Yahshua made and baptized more disciples than Yohanan.
Stop. Yahshua made and baptized more disciples than Yohanan. So, Yohanan had a water baptism. Yahshua had a water baptism. None of these purple people have been baptized. Not one. Not from the head, not from the tail, not the colonel, not the general, not the lieutenant, not the private. None of them. Go ahead.
Though Yahshua himself baptized not.
This is where they're going to stop. You see that? Yahshua didn't baptize. I had to say, bro, I already know where you're going. How about let's read the rest of that? And then that purple confusion came over his face. Read the rest of it. Go ahead, brother.
But his disciples.
Right. His disciples worked for him. His disciples did the baptism. The CEO of a company does not do the manual labor. The guy who owns Firestone he don't change tires, okay? He owns a business that changes tires. He doesn't do it himself. So this is the twisted teaching here that there is no water baptism. Now let's go to Acts chapter 1. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, just to even further what you're talking about, Yahshua not doing everything. I mean, you got to think about when the disciples reached a point where they were saying, why were we not able to cast that demon out?
Mm-hmm.
So they were out doing the job.
Right.
And he said, hey, man, this one only comes by praying and fasting. This one's above and beyond y'all. I'll take care of it.
Right.
Acts chapter 1.
Yeah. Start at verse 4.
And being assembled together with them, commanded them that they should not depart from Jerusalem, but wait for the promise of the Father, which says he, you have heard of me. For Yohanan truly baptized with water, but you shall be baptized with the Holy Spirit not many days hence. So
now we're still dealing with certain things. We see Yohanan having this baptism of water, and then we're going to get to something here where we see why they hate baptism. Let's go to Luke chapter 7. When we get down to Yohanan the Baptist, he's the only one that could have baptized Yeshua. He was born for that job. Start that at verse 22.
Luke chapter 7 and verse 22. Then Yahshua answering said unto them, Go your way, and tell Yohanan what things you have seen and heard, how that the blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, to the poor the gospel is preached. And blessed is he, whosoever shall not be offended in me. And when the messengers of Yohanan were departed, he began to speak unto the people concerning Yohanan. What went you out into the wilderness for to see? A reed shaken with the wind? But what went you out for to see? A man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, they which are gorgeously apparelled and live delicately are in king's courts. But what went you out for to see? A prophet? Yea, I say unto you, and much more than a prophet. This is he of whom it is written, Behold, I send my messenger before your face, which shall prepare your way before you.
So if I read Yohanan's words, do I become more than a prophet? I become these things just because I read it? So there's something seriously wrong with this doctrine. And you're going to have to get ready for somebody to boldly profess some of the wrongest things you've ever heard in your life. And they're going to say it with a straight face. And say it over and over and over. Go ahead.
For I say unto you, among those that are born of women, there is not a greater prophet than Yohanan the Baptist. But he that is least in the kingdom of Elohim is greater than he. And all the people that heard him and the publicans justified Elohim, being baptized with the baptism of Yohanan.
So the publicans, you're talking about these people then are going and getting baptized. So what it says, and all the people that heard him and the publicans justified Elohim. They were justifying Elohim by obeying what was given, which was the baptism. This is how they justify Elohim. Publicans were tax collectors. They hated, these are the worst hated people around. But then they converted to the things that were given unto them. But check out who didn't. Go ahead.
But the Pharisees and lawyers rejected the counsel of Elohim against themselves, being not baptized of him.
Right. They already reject the baptism. These same people reject the baptism. They have not justified Elohim. They don't believe in Elohim. They call themselves Hebrew Israelites. They are not Hebrews. They are Christians. They use the name Jesus. But I tell you what, they less than Christians. Even the Christians get baptized. So I have not finished this. I just gave y'all what I got up to this point. But once I finish it, I'm going to send it out to every email I got. I'm going to put it on the internet. I want y'all to be ready for these things. That's all that we're going to do. Enjoy your new moon with some purple power. Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.